Hello, everyone. Welcome to this public hearing of CPA Fiscal 26 presentations and meeting of the Community Preservation Act Committee on December 12th, 2024. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. We're meeting via Zoom remotely as permitted by the town of Amherst State. This meeting is being recorded and will appear on the town of Amherst CPA webpage. I'm going to call on people now to make sure that we can all hear you and you can be heard. I'm Sam. I'm just going to go right around. If you can just speak up when I call your name. David.
Present.
Katie.
Present.
Jason.
Present.
Tim.
Present.
Matt.
Present.
Robin.
Present.
Bob.
Present.
Okay, so seems we all can be seen and heard, and we do have to have a minute taker for every meeting. Is there a volunteer to do so for this meeting? Cue the Jeopardy music. If I had an auctioneer's voice, I'd be using it. Bidip, 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 bidip.
I'll do it,
See a
Sam.
peace sign. May the force be with you, Katie. Thank you. So it looks like we're all here. There are 8 sitting members of our committee because we don't currently have a liaison from planning. And so we're good to go. Now this is and was listed publicly in the Gazette, as well as on the Facebook page and elsewhere at the town website as a public hearing. Public hearings are required for CPA and annually and for the budget allocations to provide an opportunity for any member of the community and public who wishes to speak on any projects. It's distinct from regular meetings. So I have opened this meeting and I'm going to pause and give the opportunity for any member of the public who wishes to make any comment regarding any of this year's project submittals or CPA related to speak up.
So there is nobody in the audience right now, so I suggest we just start with approving our minutes and a couple of discussion items, and then if anybody joins us before that's done, then we'll sort of reopen the public hearing and allow anybody to speak. Otherwise, we'll move on if nobody
There's the
attends.
chance that somebody might be seeking to call in or speak via chat. I just like to check that to make sure.
There's no
Sometimes
attendees,
individuals
so
may
there's
have
nobody
access.
there.
I'm not seeing either. I'll give a last call for public comment on the CPA projects for fiscal year 26. And wait 30 seconds.
Sam, if someone comes in 10 minutes, are you closing comments or are you allowing people?
I may allow comments, but not as a portion of the public hearing.
Okay.
I'll need to close the public hearing in order to commence a regular meeting, that's what we did last year, so. My bias is to enable members of the community and public to speak. We all have an interest in what anyone might have to say, depending on when it occurs, so I try to be flexible with that, as flexible as I can. But seeing no members of the community and no one calling in or chats, I'm going to go ahead and close this portion of the public hearing. I don't believe we need a vote to do so, but I'm not certain of that. Holly, do you have any familiarity if that's required? All right, so let's cover ourselves. I move to close the public hearing Is there a second?
Bob seconded.
Second,
Second, I hear from Bob. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. I vote in favor, aye. David Williams,
aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0, one absent. Assuming it was needed. If it's an unnecessary motion, we did it anyway. So now we'll open the regular portion of the CPA meeting, and the first item of any CPA meeting is public comment. So is there any public comment?
I say
see
we
if anyone-
reserve that till later if anybody joins.
Yeah, I'm just following the agenda. We'll move it later. Nobody's here, so. Next item on our agenda is to approve any outstanding minutes. There were a few submittals of minutes to the committee. And I guess I'll go in order. The first set of minutes was July 29th of 2024. Would anyone, any committee members wish to make any comments or requested edits on those minutes? I submitted them, so I don't have any suggestions. Okay. If there are no comments on the minutes or suggested edits, we can vote to approve. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of July 29th, 2024?
So moved.
Is that Robin?
Yep.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? No discussion. So we'll move to a vote. I'll commence the roll call vote. I'll vote aye. David,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Katie,
I'm abstaining.
Jason,
I will abstain.
Bob,
Aye.
Tim,
Abstain.
Robin.
Aye.
So the motion passes via,
Yes.
Matt, you voted in favor, is that correct?
Yeah,
Mhm.
aye.
Motion
Five.
passes 5 in favor,
Mhm.
3 abstentions, 1 absent. Next set of minutes were from November 14th, 2024. Bob, were these your minutes submittals, I believe? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any suggested edits or comments related to the minutes of November 14th? Tim,
A couple. One, if we could add the link to the recording on the top of the minutes as our usual practice. Secondly, I didn't at the bottom, I didn't see that Bob had submitted, so we need to have the submitted by Bob Saul. And then the third, my recollection is that that's the meeting that we voted on new officers, but there was no reference to that in the minutes.
I think we voted for officers on our first meeting, which I believe was November 7th.
Oh, okay, so that's
Yes.
why. All right, because we haven't gotten the November 2nd minutes yet. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Additional comments from any committee members? I'd have a minor comment, which is throughout the written minutes, I'd add a capital L to my name, a universal name search with McLeod, just make it capital.
Never get it right. Sorry, Sam.
My grandmother and just got that into my head when I was young. Here's how you spell it, capital
Well,
L.
go back and talk to her, will you?
I would if I had that ability, but I'm afraid I can only do so in my dreams. In terms of members absent, I see a double question mark. And I guess I can communicate with you afterwards on that. We had a
Okay.
member, Lawrence Fritz, but he had stepped away, and I don't recall if it was in advance of this meeting or the subsequent. I think it was prior to this meeting, in which case we would have no members because there would have been a vacancy on the planning board, but I can let you
Mhm.
know.
Okay.
Given these suggestions, Bob, of adding the link from the town website and a submitted by, removing the question mark and the capital O, would you be able to make those edits and provide them again to Holly?
I sure will.
Okay. Any other suggested edits or comments regarding the minutes of the 14th from any member? Okay, so perhaps we could have a motion regarding the minutes.
I move the minutes be approved as amended at tonight's meeting.
Second that.
That would be Katie, second. Any discussion? No discussion, so we can proceed to a vote. Roll call vote of members regarding approving the minutes of November 14th with edits as discussed in this meeting. I'll vote aye. David,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Robin.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0. I misspoke previously when I said one member absent on the previous notes, Katie. There is not a one member absent because we're lacking a member.
Yes, thank
We
you.
only have 8
I-
members. You got that right. I got it wrong, but I'm correcting myself.
No, I appreciate that for the recording. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, 2 sets of minutes. The next, is there a third set of minutes that were provided?
Yes,
It's a set of minutes from the meeting of November 21st, 2024. I'd like to open the floor for any comments or edit suggestions from committee members regarding those minutes. Matt,
yeah, this is super minor, but well, the recording link just is X's, so you can fix that. And then Robin Fordham's name is not in members present. I believe she was present.
I believe she was as well. Who was the minute taker for these minutes? don't
I
recall.
was.
Tim, okay, very good. So there's the link, there's Robin's name. Tim, Matt, further comments?
No.
Okay, Tim, I see your hand is
Oh,
raised.
yeah, I was going to say the same thing about, got the Robin wrong, but I was going to mention the link as well, so we're all set. Okay.
Any additional comments or edits from committee members regarding the minutes of November 21st? Not seeing any additional comments or raised hands. I guess then we can seek to have a motion to approve the minutes of the 21st. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Is
I'll
there a
second
second?
that.
Jason, was that you?
That was me.
Okay, we have a motion from Katie, a second by Jason. Any discussion? No discussion, so we'll proceed to a roll call vote to approve the minutes of November 21st, 2024 as amended in discussion. I'll commence by voting aye. David,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Robin.
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0. So we are all set, I believe, with the minutes. three sets and
Can I just make a quick suggestion? Holly, do I need to redo the minutes and send them to you, or can you just add Robin and we'll be done with it?
You're muted, Holly.
Sorry about that. I said, either way, it doesn't matter. If they're minor edits, I can make them. If there's more
That would be
substantive,
great.
I prefer
And then
somebody else,
get
but
the
with
correct,
your,
get the, so the change was Robin was present and the link needs to be filled into what it's supposed to be. Thanks.
so that'll be accomplished by Holly. Did I get that correct? Or is that you?
Yes.
Gonna do that? Holly will. Okay, very good. Thank you for clarifying the nature of the edit corrections, Tim.
Okay.
The next item on our agenda is to review financials. So I'd like to invite Holly to communicate whatever makes sense from her perspective for us.
so there's just, the financials have not changed since the last meeting. At the last meeting, I believe, we announced that we had, got the figure from the state. We have actually got the money from the state, so that is, the current, the previous financial is still the current one. I'm trying to share my screen and not able to find it at the
Yeah,
moment.
you have a very nice
Don't know
chart
what's
in
going
the,
on.
packet.
Yeah, so the chart is in the packet. But we did, Sam had sent out an email, either yesterday or today, regarding one of the projects, the Town of Amherst Mill River baseball fields. Dave Zomack has announced that, they are looking to, reduce the amount of that as they make some other plans down the road for future changes. So they've reduced the ask for the Mill River baseball fields from 120,000 to 80,000. So that project has been, or that proposal has been reduced by 40,000. Sam and I also both recently received communication from the Amherst Cemetery Association. I can't remember the name, Rachel, saying that
Rebecca
they,
Frick.
Rebecca is saying that the Amherst Cemetery Association has received some additional fundraising in the amount of $10,000. So they are going to reduce their ask on that proposal by $10,000 as well. So I have changed a couple of the numbers.
Holly, would it be helpful if I shared my screen with the packet chart that you generated? I think it might be beneficial.
I don't know why I'm having difficulties right now.
I'm gonna see if I can do it from my location, if that's okay.
I'll make you co-host as well, so just in case something goes wrong again, you should be able to
I
share.
believe this is the chart from the
Yeah,
that you had provided, and you'll have to bear with me. I can move my cursor up and down and or increase or shrink the size, but if you wanted to comment on this, I think it might be helpful for those watching.
would you like me to, I'm sorry, do you want me to
Yeah,
comment on it?
I-
Yeah, I mean, they are the same financials that were presented in the last couple of meetings. You know, again, everything at this point for FY26 is estimated, as FY26 has not started yet. We estimate out our revenues and our matches from the state to come up with a number. Then we have to take our debt service, previous projects that we have already allocated, and subtract that out, and that gives us what we have remaining for an estimated amount for FY26 to give out. So these are the numbers that we're currently working with. Again, you know, there were a couple of recent changes. When I can figure out how to share my screen and do that straw poll, we'll get that.
Can you
There it
confirm,
is.
Polly, before we do that, what the, if I read this correctly, what the current estimated available funds for our committee is to allocate towards these projects? Is it the 1656-059,
If you scroll down to the bottom,
excuse me.
yes, 1656.
It's this number right here.
Mm-hmm.
So $1,656,059.48 is the estimate, best estimate of the current available funding for us to consider recommending for our slated projects at present. Okay.
That's
That's helpful to me to have that that number, and I'm sure we can use that as we proceed when we look at commencing deliberations. So does anyone on the committee have any comments or questions for Holly relating to what she's communicated as a financial update? I'm not seeing any hands. So Holly, thank you for bearing with me there. And I think we can move to the spreadsheet you were referencing. Now I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can try to share it at your location again and see if we're able to.
I think I got it now.
Well, these things happen. It happens to me frequently with my computer. They don't always align. Oh, okay, so you've got this in the spreadsheet itself. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there's multiple tabs.
Could this be
okay.
enlarged slightly? Okay,
If you hide the header, you might be able to get a little bit more in there. I'm working off a small screen, so thank you.
Me too. I have a giant one at work, and then I have this little one when I do this, and it drives me insane. So this is the spreadsheet that we use to sort of, calculate things out. And then the starting with the straw poll, and then I record the actual votes in here, and it will sort of calculate out what we have available down at the bottom. As we go through and actually recommend things, you'll see the numbers change.
I think what you did, what your suggestion from the previous cycle last year, Holly, was a very good one, which is as we provide our straw poll ratings, and for those listening, the straw poll ratings are not votes. They're simply to provide a general indication for the purpose of assisting with discussions to give ourselves a general concept of how we feel about the different projects. Individual members, CPA members, may have their own methods for arriving at them. I tend to look at the project in terms of favorability regardless of expense, and then I adjust based on my opinion of the impact of the expense and available funds. But as long as every member is internally consistent, then we come up with a reasonable rating sheet, straw poll for discussion. So that's what we're doing here. And what we did last time, Holly, is we went CPA member by member through all of the projects, because that was the most logical and smoothest way of doing so. So I think we should do that again. And yes, I see hand up, Robin.
Oh, yeah, I just, I don't know if now is the time to jump in, but I just wanted to give an extremely quick report from the last historical commission meeting. We did
Sure,
review
that would be fine.
all four projects.
Can you say that again?
Sorry, we approved all four projects. You hear me okay? I've got my headphones
now, I
in.
couldn't before.
Okay. Okay. And we did rank them in terms of priority, with the stained glass windows being first, Wildwood being second, the mid-century survey being third, and the fence being fourth. So that's how the historical commission stands. And if anybody has any specific questions for me during discussion, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Robin. It's helpful to hear the opinions and recommendations and or ratings from the Historical Commission. So thank you for sharing that. I think it makes sense, unless members have something else they'd like to raise at this moment, for us to go through member by member ratings on the given projects, ratings being from 1 to 5. I don't recall who provided the first ratings last year.
We're just gonna go in the order that they're on my screen. It'll be the easiest for me. So if we want to
could, although
start,
it might not be
Matt.
fair to Matt, who winds up going first every year if we do it that way.
Matt, do you object?
Uh, Matt says he's fine, I think.
All right.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine.
Okay, so development funds, Amherst Housing, Municipal Housing
5.
Trust. Okay. Historical,
4. 3. 3. 3. 3. 3. 4. 3. 4. I didn't have particularly strong opinions this year.
You're sure those align correct? Just double check them as you go, Matt, since
Yeah, I did.
done rather quickly. Go ahead, Holly.
Jason, would you like to go next, please?
I suggest we name the project to,
So number 1, Amherst Municipal Affordable Housing Trust.
you're on mute, Jason.
Sorry. 3, 1, 4, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 5, 4, 2.
Thank you so much. Robin, are you ready? I can read them off, or you can just read off
Okay.
the numbers and go along with me if.
Okay, I think I have them in the same order, but Amherst Housing. 5. Next one is the windows, correct?
The Martin Architects Survey,
What-
Historical Commission.
Why don't you read them off, because I don't have them in the same order.
Okay, the Amherst Historical Commission, Modern Architect Survey.
4. 4.
4.
Yep.
JCA Stained Glass Windows.
5.
Amherst Cemetery Association.
5.
Town of Amherst North Cemetery Fence.
That is a 3.
Town of Amherst Rec and Conservation Signs.
A 3.
Mill River Baseball Fields.
5.
War Memorial Bathhouse.
5.
Town of Amherst Trails and Footbridges.
4.
Croft Park Accessibility.
4.
And Town of Amherst Parks Equipment.
What is that? I not have, am I missing one?
$90,000. That's okay. We can come back to you if
Oh.
you don't have it right here.
Actually, I actually don't have it on my list. I apologize.
Okay, so that's the one that was
I'll
benches and parks equipment for multiple public spaces and
Okay.
town parks. So you can
4.
think on it and we'll get back.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
You want to do 4 or
Okay,
you
I'll
want
give
to
it a
think on
4.
it?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to rush
4 is
you.
good.
Okay, Sam, you're next.
AMHHT, I gave a 3.
Okay.
Historical Commission Survey, I gave a 4. I think we're in the wrong. Oh, okay, no, we're in the right column. I misread that. JCA, I gave a 5. The Cemetery Association, I gave a 4. North Cemetery Fence, I gave a 3. Town of Amherst Recreation Signs, I gave a 4. Town of Amherst Mill River baseball fields, I gave a 3. Trails and bridges, etc., I gave a 4. Design of Groff Park, accessory improvements, I gave a 4. And Town of Amherst Parks and Equipment, I gave a 4.
We missed War Memorial Bathhouse, number 8.
Memorial Bass House, I gave a 3, although that's dollar based.
Tim, you are up next if you're ready.
Okay. I, excuse me, I have these in the same order.
Okay.
5, 3, 5, 4, 3, 5, 3, 4, 4, 4, 3. And Holly, what do the different colors mean?
I have no idea. It's just
Oh,
they're
okay.
color coded for the different numbers, and it's just been in there forever. Somebody did that, and
Okay, fair enough.
It's easier to view this way,
I think
certainly.
it's just I think it was just visual to show, and I've never changed it. So
I'm sure, was the question about the colors?
yeah.
Yeah, the colors are, it's an automatic, it's called conditional formatting, so it'll
Yeah.
automatically highlight them, so it's easier to see what's getting a thumbs up
differences.
and what's a thumbs down, yeah.
So Bob, you are up next.
4, 2, 3, 2, 2, 4, 4, 4. So boring. 4, 3, and 3.
Okay. So, and like they are up here on the screen for folks to just kind of review if I have mistyped anything, but I'm hoping somebody will catch me as we go along. So David Williams, you are next, starting with the Amherst Municipal Affordable Housing Trust.
4,
Okay. Historical Commission survey.
4,
JCA stained glass windows.
4,
Amherst Cemetery Association farmhouse restoration.
3,
North Cemetery fence.
which
The North Cemetery fence, Town of Amherst.
5,
Recreation and conservation signs.
4,
Mill River baseball fields.
3,
War Memorial Bathhouse.
4,
Trails and footbridges.
3,
Groff Park accessibility.
4,
And Town of Amherst Parks equipment.
4.
Katie.
Okay, I have them in order, Holly, so starting with the Affordable Housing Trust at 5, 4, 5, 5, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 3.
Can we enlarge this, Holly?
I
So-
can-
So I discovered that if you drag the border between the screen and the participants, you can actually make it bigger on your own screen, which helped me. That's helpful to anybody. Actually, now
I have it as big as it will go right now on my screen.
Yeah, or you could just hide columns E,
That's
F,
true.
G, and
Yeah.
H
yeah,
and
that's
I.
true.
Or it seems like there's some scroll.
Well, but you still be able to see the names,
Can,
though,
can
so you
everyone
can.
see this? It's a lot of data that's might
I
be
think
helpful
you
if
could-
it's enlarged.
Could shrink the names. We'll get most of it. Right.
Maybe we can slide the column D with all the project names and make it shorter.
Yeah, because we'll get it from the beginning of the project name. We don't need to go all the way to. Yeah, I guess.
So is this like, does this end up behind? Because on my
Is-
screen, it's,
Is this a percentage viewing? Is there a way to make it like 10% larger at all?
is it not increasing on your screen? Because
It looks like it just did. Now it just shrank. That's larger. That's good for me. I'm not sure about
Yeah.
others,
That's good.
or it was good. I'm not sure where it went. There we go. So why don't we take a moment to look at these, whoops. What we've done in past years is to invite members to have a brief one-sentence comment on a given project if they wish, as to why they made the ratings that they did. We all understand that these are just straw poll ratings to provide commentary, but sometimes it's helpful for members to hear comments from others that might have some salient point that might influence their thoughts. I think it's worthwhile to do so, and we can do it in a abbreviated fashion where we try to stick to just a summary as opposed to an extended conversation for the projects. And we can go project by project or person by person. I think it might make sense to go person by person, but Holly, are you saying something here? I've not seen you, but I'm hearing someone.
I'm sorry. I would think that the probably the most efficient way to go through would be to go project by project, let anybody who wants to speak to a particular
Okay.
project, speak to it, and then go to the next project and then go to the next
So
project.
let's do that. Let's
And
go
'cause-
project by project with perhaps a one sentence commentary as to why a vote, straw poll rating might have been what it was. It's not required to make any comment, but it can be informative sometimes. So why don't we start with the Amherst Municipal Affordable Housing Trust Development Funds. We can go left to right, and then Matt's the first person again. Is that okay by
Just-
you, Matt?
I think just anybody who would like to comment should just raise their hand and we'll just have the discussion on it. I don't think we need to call on every single person. If they don't wish to comment, they simply don't raise their hand.
Would anyone like to make a comment as to why they rated AMA HT as they did? I'll start and make a comment. I'm in favor of the trust of what it does and the projects that they develop. But I adjust my votes based on the volume of the request and the balance of existing funds within the fund. So I adjusted what might have been a vote down one based on the magnitude of the request. Not able to see others. Would anyone
Matt
else
has
like
his
to make a
hand.
comment regarding?
Matt has his hand up.
Why am I not seeing folks with their hands? How do you see the hands there? Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, it should be shown over the
There we
video
go.
if you have that shown on the side.
Yeah, I scroll up and down and I can see them now. I got that. Matt, go ahead.
I see. So part of my thinking is balancing the funds across, balancing the grants across the different purposes. This is the only request in community housing, which is, I think, an important goal of the CPA. And So that's part of my thinking. The other part is I feel that the Affordable Housing Trust has been able to make good use of those funds to move projects forward in town.
Jason,
My comments are very similar to yours, Sam, in that it was a very large ask, nearly a third of the available funds for this fiscal year. While I do support affordable housing, I do support a number of the other projects, and with the number of projects that or number of applications that we've received and the amount for this one, I downgraded it a little bit.
okay. Robin,
Yeah, I would just add to others' comments that I give it a high ranking because affordable housing in the town of Amherst, as across the nation, is really one of the most pressing issues of our time, and it's hard for me to see anything more important than supporting affordable housing.
other comments anyone wishes to make regarding their thoughts behind the vote, the ratings, excuse me. Okay, why don't we move on to the next item, which is the Historical Commission Survey for Modern Architecture. I'll commence. I provided it a 4. I looked at the dollar amount and I thought to myself, well, that's not a large request, and there is value in the surveys that get generated for this. I see it as a very frugal approach with a specific budget, so it's a tangible, known project in hand, and therefore I gave it a 4. Robin, I see that your hand is raised.
Yeah. Just for everybody on the CPA committee, surveying the historic resources of the town of Amherst is a main responsibility of the Historical Commission. We're actually, it's part of our charge to maintain an updated what we would call an inventory, which means providing documentation and records for the historical resources of the town. And a lot of historic preservation went on in the 70s and 80s, looking back towards things in the late 1800s. The early 1900s and mid-century modern architecture has been overlooked largely just due to the timing. Things come into survey as they get older. And so I just wanted to make sure that people understood that this was part of our job in the Historical Commission, and that this is an area that is basically lacking in our current survey of inventory.
Thank you, Robin. Tim.
Yes, Robin, I didn't catch your priorities for the 4 historical ones. The commission, I didn't write that down. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, the first priority would be the stained glass windows, given their risk of fracture. The second would be the Wildwood House, which is undergoing a sustained and really responsible preservation project. The third would be the survey for the reasons that I just stated, and then the fourth is the fence.
Okay, thanks.
I would like to just remind committee members, if they want to chime in at any point in time and alter any of their own ratings, that happens frequently, so feel free to raise your hand to do so. Any other committee member comments regarding the Amherst Historical Commission Modern Architecture Survey? Not seeing any hands raised, so we'll go to the next, which is the JCA, Historic Preservation of Stained Glass Windows. Robin.
Okay, so yep, like I said, we rank this as a highest priority, and I just wanted to note that when I'm looking at and talking to people in the town about preservation projects, I often try to direct them to other sources of funding to see if CPA funds can be reduced, if there's a potential for grants elsewhere. It's extremely difficult, if almost impossible for active religious congregations to get funding elsewhere. So that's why this has such a high rating, both due to the risk factor and the inability to really seek out funds from another grant source.
Thank you, Robin. Jason?
Yes, I agree with what Robin said, and that's part of my determination. And also, it's a large ask for that community, the JCA themselves. If the windows were going to be preserved, it's a large ask for their group, and they're not because they took over a pre-existing building. It's not, if they want, if everybody agrees that those windows are worth saving, then it should be on everybody, the town, not just the JCA, to do it just because they bought the building. They didn't build those windows, but they've been deemed to be historically important to the town and worth preservation.
Thank you, Jason. Katie?
I would just add to and build on both of those comments from Robin and Jason to say that there's an urgency that came through in that presentation. I appreciate that the Historical Commission ranked it high. And, I think the fact that they're also that they are raising money, that they do have a significant amount of money that they're putting towards this, and they have a decent maintenance budget for things going forward. It feels like it's a good partnership.
Thank you, Katie. Bob?
Given those comments, I'll bump mine from a 3 to a 4.
It. Okay. I have a comment, which is I gave it the rating I did based upon the risk factor affiliated with the lack of action, the urgency that Katie referenced, and the clarity of the historical nature, and I do appreciate the comments that Robin provided related to the Historical Commission rankings. Jason, I see that your hand is raised.
Yeah, I'd like to bump mine up from a 4 to a 5. The urgency was something I thought about, but as we're talking about it, those things were in pretty bad shape and need to be fixed quickly if they're going to be fixed at all.
Okay. Any other comments from members? Okay. The next project on the list here, the next application, is the Amherst Cemetery Association Dickinson Farmhouse, and you'll note on the spreadsheet that Holly has reduced the total of the request by $10,000 from the original ask. They originally applied for $102,520, but Rebecca Frick informed Holly and myself the other week or the other day that they had some private fundraising of $10,000 that they are contributing towards this project, and communicated that reducing the requested budget would be viable. So I'd like to ask committee members to share any comments they may have on this project. Robin?
Yep, so I just wanted to say, in regards to this project, that Rebecca Frick has really been doing an exceptional job as a steward and archivist and preservationist for this property, and hence my high ranking there. I think it will be money well spent. She's also, we've had discussions about again applying to another outside source, the Massachusetts Preservation Project Fund, which starts its application process, I think, in a few weeks. So there's the potential there to have that ask reduced if she's able to submit a successful application there. But she's been an excellent partner to work with and is a really great asset to this property. And we're excited to see it go forward and its continued preservation.
Thank you. Comments from other committee members on the Amherst Cemetery Association Dickinson Farmhouse presentation? Katie.
Well, I thought the presentation was excellent, and it's the second year sort of coming back around to us and been modified based on the work that's needed and modified based on some fundraising. So I appreciate the effort to partner and get these additional funds. And it does feel pressing, maybe not as urgent as those stained glass windows falling out of their space, but it does feel pressing to me.
I'll make the comment that the Dickinson Farmhouse in Wildwood is a very accessible location for the community. The town, it may be a cemetery, but the town is able to walk through it with some of the pathways that are there. So it's a highly visible area, including the building, clearly historic. And I also personally appreciate the reference and the communication from Rebecca regarding the internal fundraising that they've done and contributing towards this. So that's my comment. Any other comments from committee members on this? Katie, your hand is still raised. No? Okay.
Sorry, taking notes, also trying to raise my
Yes.
hand to lower it. Sorry about that.
It's a challenge. The next project on the list is the Town of Amherst recreation signs and conservation signs. I'd like to invite committee members to speak to this if they wish. Robin.
Sorry, I thought we were on the fence.
The fence, we skipped one, Sam.
We're on the fence, yeah.
We're on the fence. North Cemetery fence was next.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna hop over the fence and we're gonna
Let's hop
talk
back
about
over the
North
fence.
Cemetery
The
fence.
fence.
So any
Okay.
comments from committee members regarding the North Cemetery fence?
And that is in
Robin?
fact what I raised my hand for. Okay, so the North Cemetery fence, this gets into the weeds and boring, and I'll try to make it simple. The Historical Commission discussed it. There's this question of definition. Existing fence is not historic. The remnants of the historic fence, we don't have any representation of, so we don't have a good way of identifying it. But we do agree that a fence to protect and divide the cemetery from the road is an appropriate preservation activity. So just to be clear, this is not about a historic fence, although historically there was a fence, but about the preservation aspect of having a fence there. I gave it a 3.0 because it doesn't seem to be particularly pressing. There's no historic fabric that's at risk at this time. The only other comment, and then the 3.0 is in regard to just funding priorities, but if there was funding for it, we would certainly support it. The only caveat was that the Historic Commission did ask, we looked at the commission looked at the proposed fence, and there was agreement among the members that it was not what we would choose from a design perspective in relationship to the historic cemetery that is there. So we would ask that if the fence project is funded, that the commission gets an opportunity to weigh in on the design.
Thank you, Robin. Comments from other committee members? I'll make a comment. Oh, Katie, go ahead. I just saw your hand.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Robin. I appreciated that differentiating. My question I think I rated this lower because it didn't feel particularly pressing. And also, I appreciated the idea of separating it from the road, but we have other cemeteries that don't have a fence in front separating it from busy streets. So I just, it felt like, are we going to do that for all of them? Is this, what was the priority here? And it just, I wasn't sure it was that a high of a priority for the town. And I wasn't totally sure, but that's what I was reading through the presentation. And so then I thought, based on the fact that we don't have enough money, then I would rate it lower. So that's why there's a 2.
Thank you, Katie. Other committee members with comments regarding their ratings on the North Cemetery fence. I'll make a comment. For me, I was uncertain regarding the historic nature of the fence. I recall previous presentation. I looked at this application in terms of the protective capacity of the fence as opposed to the historic nature. I do, however, I think Robin's comments regarding discussions from the Historical Commission have relevance and the desire to have input regarding a fence selection is significant, and it seems to make sense to have additional discussion there, but the budgetary requirements and uncertain of the specific historic nature of the fence affected my rating. If there's any other members, I'm not seeing any.
Yes,
David,
a couple of things. I'm going to start with the proposals, the requests. I think the individuals who submitted them did a very good job in presenting their requests to the committee. I would say that the individuals who came to speak on behalf of the particular proposal did a very good job, willing to go back and get additional information, and also had the support of the town in their presentation. I think, as I look at the requests that we have, and also at the ratings that we have a very good presentation that was given to us as a committee. And I know all of us have some concerns. It's just like if you notice the North Cemetery fence, I rated that as a 5 because I look at it every day and it's falling down. So and that was one little personal piece in there. But overall, I think you have a very good presentations were made and support for the request for funds. Thanks.
thank you, David. Appreciate your sharing your thoughts on the presentations. Other committee members, any comments? Okay. The next item on the list, I believe, is the Town of Amherst Recreation and Conservation signs. I'd like to invite committee members to speak regarding this application request, or rather their own thoughts in their straw poll ratings. Tim, I see that your hand is raised.
Yes, I'm the only 5. And the reason for that is I'm a real big sign guy. I really think signs add to the class, if you will, of a town. Look at the new town signs for the entrance, et cetera, et cetera. So I think new, appropriate, consistent signs would be very, very helpful in the town. What I question is when we get down to the nitty gritty is the 100,000. I don't know whether they can do a job of, say, if we only gave them 50 or 75 or whatever it is. So I'm willing to consider that. We might get some input on the from David Zomack or whatnot in terms of what can they live with, what can they not. Is it better to go piecemeal and do some sides now, others later, or is it critical that we do them all at one time? So in terms of the need, I think it's great. The cost question regarding the overall totals and the budgetary decisions we're gonna have to make.
Thank you, Tim. Jason?
Yeah, I agree with Tim. I think that signage is important and it gives the overall good aesthetic to the town. I have the same concern. The dollar amount is pretty high. Is there a priority list that they can give us? Or some way to reduce the dollar value? That was my primary motivation in not ranking it higher. Is just I think it can probably be piecemealed over a few years as opposed to, done right now.
Thank you, Jason. Other committee members? I'd like to comment on this one. I share Tim's thoughts in terms of the value of signs. And we have, as a committee, made requests of the town to improve the signage related to CPA funded projects. And I've seen some of the presence and the impact that the signs can make at some of the parks, such as Groff Park and Kendrick Park. And a big portion of this proposal is to improve signage on some of the kiosks on some of the primary locations. And I do think those are valuable in terms of the public seeing what this particular park might be, as well as the references to CPA funding that are included. And they're also seeking to fund signage for other aspects of trails. They made it clear in their presentation that it was going to be much more than a single year project because there's so much to do. I thought of a higher rating, but I also recognized our budgetary concerns. Therefore, I gave it the 4 that I did. Comments from others regarding the signage? Okay. Mill River baseball fields and electric dugouts. This, we received a communication, which I sent to you today received the other day from Dave Zomack to reduce their initial request of 120,000 down to 80,000. So they have reduced their project request by $40,000, 1/3. So I'd like to invite committee members if they wish to make any comments regarding their thoughts in providing their straw poll ratings. Robin.
Just seeing that I'm an outlier here, I'd be happy to hear from anybody on why their 3 or 4 ratings were what they chose.
Jason.
I rated it as a 3 because it's really only used by, I believe, a relatively small group of people playing baseball and sitting in the dugouts. If you're a person in town and you go to the park and you sit in the dugouts, then I guess it's nice. But it's not signage. I think benefits the whole town. There's a number of other things here and a number of other projects that I think have wider benefit to the town. And it's nice it was reduced by 40,000, but it's still a good chunk of change.
Tim?
Yeah, can someone refresh me? This now was reduced. My understanding from David is to not do the dugouts, but still do the electrical. And I don't recall exactly what the electrical was supposed to do. Can someone briefly tell me?
Yeah, I can give you a little color on what happened there.
Okay,
So the original proposal was to build dugouts at both fields and run electrical to both fields. And then when with discussion between the town and the head of Amherst Baseball, who are the primary, that's Amherst Youth Baseball, the primary users of the facility. Amherst Youth Baseball said that they only needed the dugouts in one of the fields. So that's why the current the proposal with 80,000 is the electrical to both fields and the dugouts at one field.
oh, okay. And what's the electrical do?
It allows them to plug in a scoreboard and a PA or something like that, I guess.
Thank you, Matt. Tim, further comments?
No, sorry, I just removing my hand. Thanks.
Katie?
So Robin, you were asking sort of what, the outliers. And I think I think Jason was the one who said, sort of how widely when you have a limited amount of funds, like what are you, how are you determining where is the money going to go the furthest? So that was one piece for me. But actually what I was really thinking of is, if they're going to come back with a request for the dugouts or a dugout, I guess, I don't know, next year, could they just simply fold this in? They've been without the electrical so far, could they just fold it in and come in next year? It just felt like there wasn't as much urgency here and maybe less widespread use, limited use.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Katie. Bob?
Yes, with the outlier theme, I will continue. And I guess I just think back to I won't go on too long about this, but the implications of the financial crisis is they've sort of rippled through the town over time, and it's involved a lot of deferred maintenance for our recreational facilities that we've been trying to catch up with it for years, and it just seemed to me that $80,000 to start to check something off the list, especially when you look at the next item on this list at 750, seems like an easy thing to allocate to get this done, something that has been postponed for 2 decades, maybe. So I'm just seeing a small amount with some big impacts on an important recreational facility.
Thank you, Bob. Katie, your hand is still raised. Do you have something to add? Oh, okay. I'll make a comment. My 3 was rated prior to taking into consideration the funding adjustment, although I'm a big fan of supporting all of the Amherst sports leagues because they impact our youth in such a positive way in the whole community. A lot of my struggles regarding ratings relate to the overall budget and where we can gain funds or not. I think it's great that all these different applications come before us, and sometimes it's a challenge how to allocate and or meet the needs. But I'm going to change my 3 on the baseball fields to a 4 for the straw polls, if you can, Holly, based on the impact of the lower request from the applicant. soon as Holly gets that, we'll start the next one. You able to do that, Holly? I think Holly's having, there's some sort of sign here. Not sure what's going on. I think we can continue our discussion for this purpose to the next item, which is the Town of Amherst War Memorial Bathhouse request. Like to invite committee members to speak to the War Memorial Bathhouse request and their straw poll rating related to that. Jason.
Yeah, I give this a 4. I think it's a project that, or I think something needs to be done with the bathhouse. And it's important to have facilities presumably all year round for the field, the track and field. We know we're going to be getting a new track and field. I am concerned about the dollar value, or the dollar ask. It's a very big ask. And I'm also concerned about the previous. I'm kind of in this sunk costs fallacy here, I think, in that a good bit of money has already been spent. And I tend to think that the town has a problem with doing studies or a downtown design thing and spending a bunch of money on something and then it never coming to fruition and that money having just been wasted. And I wouldn't want to see that happen with this project because as I understand it, a good chunk of money has already been spent on some things for it. And I do think it's important. I will say, however, I would like to know some more details about the financials of War Memorial Pool itself. I understand it is not a money-making thing, and I don't necessarily believe that it has to make profit, but it's one thing if it's losing $5,000 a year. It's another thing if it's losing $150,000 a year. So I'm a little concerned about that. But overall, I do think it's a good project that needs to happen. But it is a large ask right now.
Thank you, Jason. Matt.
Yeah, so my concern here is about the amount of money rather than giving any money. It's a big ask on top of the 750 we already allocated last year. And I could say more when we get into more detailed discussion maybe, but that's my primary concern is whether or not to give the full 750.
Thank you, Matt. Others wishing to make comment on the War Memorial Bathhouse? I'll make a comment. I gave it a 3 due to the size of the ask. I am in favor of this central location and in favor of I see the need for this heavily utilized pool by many community members. The dollar amount is a lot given our current budget constraints, and I saw future needs for this, but I also saw that there was in the presentation, there is a minimal required dollar amount in order to maximize the potential for the grants for which these would be matching funds. So I would be in favor of meeting that required minimum amount, which is not minimal, to enable and leverage the CPA funding through park grants and others, and we can talk about that later. That may have been what Matt was referring to as well, I speculate. Katie.
I wondered about debt service, and is this allowed for that? Can we use debt service as for some or part or all of this to help attend to this sort of big financial ask. I mean, I agree that it is a huge ask. We've already made an investment, but I really think this is a very important project. Talk about depreciate, some things that have been put aside for years. Back to Bob's comment, just really needing attention. And it's a highly visible, highly used piece of property that I think would benefit many, many people. So I'm in favor for those reasons, and the match leverage potential, as well as what Sam just described.
Thank you, Katie. Holly, would you like to comment on the capacity for funds to be used for debt service bonding for the War Memorial Bathhouse? I believe we did that previously, but I'd like to rely upon Holly's knowledge.
So, I mean, yes, debt service is an available funding option for the CPA committee. But in going back, let's see if I can quickly, in going back and looking at the debts service that we have already authorized, it's just something you need to take careful consideration on, because once we authorize that debt, we have to pay it. We can't decide not to. So that takes away from your availability to fund other projects very first thing. So it is definitely an available funding source. It's something that you need to just, weigh the pros and cons of very carefully, because it just means that there's going to be less for the next 5 to 10 years to give away while we pay for that project. And, again, we can recommend debt, but the way that the debt gets bundled and sold is not something that we can control. That is up to the treasurer on how the debt is whether it's a 5-year debt or a 10-year debt. We can certainly make recommendations. Town council can certainly make recommendations, et cetera, on how we want to fund it. But it's just, you need to remember that just means there's that much less that we would be able to give away for the next 5 to 10 years, depending on how that gets allocated out, that debt. So yes, it is an option. It is an option that I just would advise folks to think about carefully. We do have the last year of the Kendrick Park Playground, which would free up an additional $36,000. I'm not sure how well you guys can see the debt down here in those figures. Let me pull it up a little bigger. But this is what we have currently authorized, and you'd just be adding more to that. We will lose this $36,000 for FY27. These projects are in there. The rest of the projects are really just at the beginning. Many of them have not even started yet. So that number is just going to continue to rise. And so I just would caution folks about that.
Thank you, Holly. Katie, your hand's still raised? Do you have?
Yeah, Holly, could a portion, instead of 750, but 200 be part of, be used debt service to?
Absolutely. It would be a little messy to write council orders, but we can certainly do that. If we had enough cash to cover everything, but 200, 300, 400,000 of it, we wanted to do partial cash, partial debt. That is an option.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to ask that. Thank you. And I appreciate the reminder that, we can't just take away all of our money for the future. I mean, we could,
We
but
could.
that
It would
wouldn't
be
be a
easy.
great, it wouldn't be a great, yeah, right. Then your job would be done. No, I appreciate that.
Teasing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Any other comments regarding one's straw poll ratings for the War Memorial Pool? Tim, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, I did have a comment. I was uncomfortable in the finances of this thing in the presentations, and I don't know if it's possible for someone to make a return visit to us or outline it in paper. but I just don't really quite understand whether 750 is the correct number. I know the process is to leverage state funding. How much of that 750 we approved last year? I just don't know if that's the right number and whether my concern is a big number, but I'd like to have a little bit better understanding before we finalize a vote on this.
I have a thought, Tim, might you, phrase that, what you said in a succinct question and send it such that we could make the request of the applicant for clarity, regarding what you're asking? We
Sure,
can-
I'll send that. I could send that to you and Holly.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we have the ability to inquire further from applicants if we feel the need to. And if there's uncertainty from your perspective on the ask, I don't know, I'm not looking at the application at present. It's possible some of the information that you're seeking is in there. I don't know. But if you want to review that presentation and then send a question, I would be glad to, I believe it was Amy who submitted this.
Okay,
Uh,
I'd have to review those things too, to be honest with you, and I don't have that easily in front of me right now.
I
But that's my
understand.
recollection in the past.
I understand. So, you know, if there's something that you would like to ask further after looking it over, I'd be glad to provide it. I think if you have that question, it's likely a good question for other committee members or something that we may or may not have missed. Holly, could you put the spreadsheet back up if you're able to, please? Thank you. Matt, I see that your hand is raised.
Yeah, I just want to add a little clarification, I think, for Tim. It seems to me that committee members are requesting two types of information. One type on the actual capital cost of the project, like how much is it going to cost to replace the bathhouse and how much funds do we have to supply from CPA and how much is we seeking from other sources. And then Jason and maybe some other people also seem to be asking for information sort of on the usage, how the bathhouse is usage. Now I sit on the recreation committee, so I hear probably more about it than anyone else here does. And I have to say, from what I've heard, looking at it just from the revenue and costs doesn't necessarily represent all of the information. That is obviously part of the information, is how much does it cost to run it and how much direct revenue does it receive. The other part is all of the camps, the summer camps for children in the town that are run in that area at the schools there, and they make heavy use of that facility.
Thank you, Matt. Further comments regarding one's ratings on the various, in this case, the War Memorial Bathhouse. Jason, I see that your hand is raised.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I also would like to know if is this the last ask? I believe in their packet it said 4 million. So I assume they'll be coming back with another ask.
My understanding is they're going to ask the town capital budget for the last any additional money.
So if we, and this is a question that potentially they can bring back to us, or an answer they can potentially bring
But-
back to us. It was
Yes.
750 last year, 750 this year. That would be 1.5, right? And that's
Right.
a match, assuming it's a 1.5 match, that's 3 million. And then they'll ask capital for the additional million.
That's my understanding of what they're thinking right now. Of course, everything is subject to change.
Okay.
Yeah, and my note showed the need for the match was 1.1, not 1.5, and there was a disconnect. So those are the kind of questions, but I can see if I can phrase something to send to them.
Thank
Okay.
you, Jason and Tim.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I saw my understanding was that the need for the minimum need for the match was 450 from the presentation. I could be wrong. And as Matt says, things may be subject to change, but Jason, my understanding, separate from my matching question is that they recognize that there is a need, at least in their initial presentation, to meet that need with future funds from some source. Matt indicates capital, which may be correct. But let's move on to the next project for comments, unless there's any other committee members. Let me take a look who wish to comment on the War Memorial rating that they gave. I've not seen hands. So the next project is trails and footbridges. If any member would like to comment on their ratings of the trails and footbridges request, which is 150,000. Well, I'll make a comment. I gave it a 4 because I'm a strong believer and heavy user of the trails and footbridges in town, and I think they made a very good case for the magnitude of the backlog of projects that they faced. If one walks down the bike path, as an example, you'll see the constant maintenance required regarding to keep the beavers at bay and some of the others. So I feel it's a worthy project, and therefore I gave it a 4, and we have to wrestle with funding as we go further. So thank you. Anyone else on the committee would like to make a comment on this? I see Jason. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I gave it a 5. Similar reasons. Me and my family were heavy users. I have young kids. They love going on the bridges and the elevated paths. But we were at the Larch Hill Conservation Area, I think the weekend prior to the meeting where they gave the presentation, and that particular footbridge is in really bad shape. There's loose boards. There is I would probably think that's one of the highest priority footbridges, and it's accessible, but in the condition that it's in right now, I don't know if something were to happen with somebody that's has limited mobility, it would be a real problem. And if somebody gets hurt on one of those bridges, I think that would also be a really big problem. So maintenance, in my opinion, is incredibly necessary for those footbridges, especially Larch Hill. I'm sure there's others that are potentially just as bad, but I had just been at that one, so it was fresh in my mind. But yeah, it's extremely important, and the trails, they get used a lot. And being on the Conservation Commission, we hear a lot about the trails. We see a lot about the projects that go on to repair some of the footbridges and things like that. And just since the pandemic, foot traffic on the trails and bridges has increased a great deal.
Thank you, Jason. Holly, let me interrupt for a moment. I saw that we had 1 attendee in 8 panelists and 1 attendees, and I'm thinking that Bob may have accidentally dropped out and re-signed in. I don't
Thank you.
seem to have the capacity to bring the attendee into the meeting. I'm wondering if you might be able to look at that. So we're talking about our ratings on the trails and footbridges. I'd like to ask if any other committee members have a comment that they'd like to make on the trails and footbridges application. Not seeing any hands raised. Next item.
Yeah, Sam.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Matt.
Yeah, I just echoing Jason's comments, and also this is another area where there's a lot of deferred maintenance, and that is, backlog of deferred maintenance that is required, and also 150 miles of trails. There's a safety issue. There's also, as I'm sure Jason's well aware, like some of the improvements is also to prevent erosion and degradation of wetlands and things like that as well. Yeah, there's just a lot to be done with trails and footbridges.
Thank you, Matt. Any other comments or thoughts from committee members on the footbridges and trails? Bob, I see you're back. Did you depart briefly?
Yeah, sorry about that. The wind is blowing my internet connection around, I think.
Well,
Yeah, I heard Jason's comments about,
great. Well, we're glad we can see you back in the meeting room.
the
It's always frustrating it's frustrating.
of this
when people away.
money is very, very big.
Say that again, please. I interrupted you. Bob. Can you hear me, Bob? It may be that you've gotten cut off again. So why don't we continue to the next item on our list, and we can revisit if someone wishes to make a comment as we go forward on one of these prior projects. The next one is the Town of Amherst Groff Park accessibility application request of $100,000. I'd like to invite members to make any comment that they have in regards to their rating. Raise your hand if you have something you'd like to say. Well, I'll make a comment. I think our parks in town are a great asset for the community. I know firsthand that Groff Park, as well as others, are heavily utilized. And I think accessibility is very important for those who want to be able to get to a location, but are frustrated by lack of access. Now, the pavilion, the lower pavilion, is down quite a hill there, so it would be a challenge for somebody who has mobility challenges to get there potentially. And I also see the safety issue regarding the sidewalks in the parking lot at Groff Park. I've always paid attention as I drive in and back out of there, but if you frequent that location, you may see what I saw, which is a need or a benefit potential from some of the items that the accessibility design plan hopes to address. Comments from others? Okay. And then we have the parks and equipment request for $90,000. I'd like to invite committee members to make any comments they wish regarding their ratings on these. Matt.
Yeah, I just feel this $90,000 goes a long way. As we see it, some of the newer parks that have been renovated recently, there's a lot of people using them, a lot of people using those benches. I think if we put in durable and good benches and trash cans and things like that, a lot of people will use them. It will increase the visual appeal of our recreation areas. I just think $90,000 goes a long way in terms of improving the town.
Thank you, Matt. Jason.
I certainly agree with you, Matt, that if we put them in, they will certainly be used. I frequent a number of the parks here, and trash cans, benches are great. Pretty much my sole reason is the line item cost that they gave us. $4,000 for a bench, one bench, is a ridiculously high number to me. That doesn't include the installation of it. That's just a bench. And I think $90,000, I don't think $90,000 is a particularly big ask. I just think that I would like to see either a quote or something, because I think that $4,000 is a lot of money for a bench and the tables and everything. I just think that the money could go a lot further if maybe uh, some competitive quotes were received, or in some way. I think that's a lot of money for each line item.
Thank you, Jason. Comments from other committee members? Looks like Bob may have had a connection issue again. Tim?
Yes, I always struggle with my ability to decide what's best when more experts, if you will, have made these requests. And there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 town of Amherst requests totaling 1.3 million. So I don't know if it's appropriate, but I think it is to ask Dave Zomack and his staff to come back and tell us we can't spend that entire 1.3 because we have to cut almost 500,000. So how would they prioritize? What would they think? Would they give all the money to the parks equipment and not as much to the trails, or vice versa? I mean, I hesitate to make that decision because I don't know what's best. I have some opinions, but maybe there are more people who deal with this day in and day out could give us some opinions. So if it's appropriate, I would like to see what the town feels in terms of their priorities and how they might reduce some of their requests based on those priorities.
Thank you, Tim. It certainly has been helpful in prior years to receive feedback from the town. And I think it's occurred quite constructively, at least for the last 2 cycles, possibly prior to. It's always a challenge, and I'm sure it's a challenge for the town staff as well, because there's all kinds of great projects that folks want to get done. Not all of these proposals are specific from the town of Amherst, so there's the additional challenge that we face. But it can be helpful, or rather it has been helpful in past cycles, to inquire as to whether or not any, if a lower amount of a proposal could still be beneficial, even if not the full amount. And the town of Amherst certainly has a large slate of projects, and there's a couple of other projects here as well, applications, excuse me, that have large dollar amounts on them. There's the AMH Municipal Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and there's the JCA, and there is the Amherst Cemetery Association. The Historical Commission is a very, very modest request of 15,000. So let me, any other questions or comments related to the parks and equipment from committee members? I have a comment on it, which is I agree with Matt that the concept of replacing and improving benches and the equipment can have a really significant impact in the usability of the facilities. As an aside, I'd like to see the parks and equipment include water fountains throughout various places of town for bicyclists, but that's something for the town to consider out all the different factors that might be involved with that another time in a different proposal. So, but I value the request and the impact it can make, whatever the dollar amount might be. So we've gone through the various projects to have brief commentary, which I think is helpful to all of us to hear if others have anything they wish to say. I'm not seeking, I'd like for us to get out on time today, or earlier. In previous years, we've gone over and we've slated the time between now and 8. But I do think it makes sense, as Tim requested or asked or suggested, to inquire as to whether or not there might be the capacity for a different prioritization or delineation of prioritization of projects and or reduced funding. And we certainly can inquire that of the town. Although, Holly, would it be through Dave that we might make those requests? That's what we've done in the past, or through you in conjunction with Dave, or what would you, who might be appropriate? We could probably communicate between now and then and get feedback from the town. Do you have any thoughts on that, Holly?
Yes, I mean, the proposals are basically all from,
I'm having a hard time hearing you. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, the proposals are basically all from the conservation planning area and the DPW. So Dave will likely coordinate a discussion.
Okay.
Excuse me. Excuse me, sorry. So Dave, I can request from Dave tomorrow that he coordinate a discussion between all of the parties for the Town of Amherst projects and bring some information back to us. So we are scheduled to meet next Thursday. Okay, so I hope that he could get us
next Thursday, yeah.
some answers by then.
Now, can you confirm for me? I see all the different projects. Most start with TOA, Town of Amherst, although the first project we discussed is titled Amherst Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. Is that a project that inquiries Dave would discuss as well, or is that a distinct entity?
So they are a separate entity. They are a part of the town, but also separate. So his staff, he has some folks that work under him that are the liaison to the Affordable Housing Trust. I think currently Nate Malloy. So he can, whatever questions we have for them, he can help us to answer or forward to the right folks for us to get answers to those questions as well. If Tim wants to get that info to us. Was it Tim, I think, that had a question on that? I can't remember.
Tim had a question regarding the general funding. It's a strongly rated proposal by the committee, although I know in years past, there's been some smaller dollar amounts, but it's a tough, they have a tough, I wouldn't mind personally hearing if there's any leeway from their perspective in their request. So that's my posture. I'm one member of the committee, though. I inquire or raise that topic because there's two very large dollar amount requests here for $750 and for $500. And I think it can be beneficial for the committee to have feedback from any of them. I don't know what other committee members think about that. The committee can always vote to recommend aside from that, but that's my thoughts on it. I don't think it would hurt if there's dollar amounts to be saved from any particular location as we try to meet the need, because we'll have a challenge as a committee in terms of how to make determinations on all these funds and all these requests. And Katie had a very interesting thought from my perspective in terms of potential bonding for a lower amount. That's one avenue. So I'm speaking, but I'd like to hear from other committee members. Matt, I see your hand is raised. Is it?
Yeah, I was just going to say last year, Dave Zimek came back with a proposal about the Amherst Municipal Affordable Housing Trust, as well as adjusting the proposals for the town of Amherst. So he that was in coming back in his recommendation.
Okay, so thank you, Matt. That's my recollection as well. Tim, I see that your hand is raised.
Yeah, so in terms of our process, is it next week we're gonna do the voting, and is that our last scheduled meeting?
Well, the process currently, we do have a meeting next week, and
Right,
the last scheduled currently, if we did not complete it at that time, I think it would likely require us to go into the new year, given the holiday weeks. There's not a specific urgent deadline. We've always sought to accomplish things prior to the holidays, from a nice fit with other town committees and processes, but it's not mandated. I think that that would be the hope, Tim, that
Okay.
we could meet next week. But I do believe, in terms of a process, what I'd like to confirm at this point, I think this makes sense, is for Holly, for you to confirm again the gap analysis that we have, excuse me, the funding gap that we have. And I think you said it at the start of this meeting, it was 500 some odd $1,000. That's the current differential between the ask and the available funds. And if your spreadsheet, if an image of that spreadsheet of the ratings could be shared with our committee members in advance of next week, so we can just kind of look it over with the single chart that shows the projects and the ratings, I think that it certainly won't hurt for committee members to be able to see that. And Tim, your suggestion, I think is a very valuable one, or a very, wise one, that we see what Dave and or the town staff come back with, Holly. And I think it makes sense, as Matt said, Holly, to inquire of the Affordable Trust as well. And then in terms of the process question that you asked him, we can come back tomorrow. We'll have next Thursday, we'll have the spreadsheet with all the projects. I'd ask that individual committee members think about what we're facing, but it is apt to be influenced by what we hear back from the town. But we can think about our own prioritizations of how we might seek to fill things if there's an issue. Which projects do we really think we can fund fully or partially? And hopefully get to votes next week, Tim, and possibly conclude. I'm optimistic that we can do so. That's my response to your question.
Right. No, I understand that. Part of my question was, we are going to have to make some significant cuts, probably 400,000+ in cuts. And the majority of that has got to come from the town projects. Assuming that we are going to approve those that have got high ratings today, like the stained glass windows and the housing trust and so forth. Yeah, okay. I think that Dave, I don't know if he's listening to this, but he understands that was
He
part of the
wanted to
reason
be
why
here
that.
today, but he had another meeting. He's
No, I understand.
presenting the Leverett with the track and field.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
So thank you, Tim. Katie, I see that your hand is raised.
Thank you, Sim. Can I maybe make a suggestion that if we're going to get information about the War Memorial Pool in terms of the questions that Matt and Jason asked and the debt service suggestion idea, as well as the prioritization as you've been discussing, if it's humanly possible, which it might not be, to get us that information in advance. And I think we'd be able to be pretty efficient if we have the, if the committee members each have a chance to review that in advance and kind of get a sense of how that affects their votes, or in terms of how that might affect the amount of money they might allocate. I realize that having someone to answer some questions might be necessary, but I wondered if that might be a request we could make.
I certainly have the intent, if Tim reviews the pool and discovers he's correct in his in some of the missing information regarding future funding, that I would gladly send that to Amy and CC the town staff, Holly and Dave. In terms of bonding debt, I think we have our answer already regarding that question from Holly, in that it's something that can be done, but it should be thought of carefully. And we did receive, I don't know if it was during the meeting or prior to the presentation, numbers regarding the usages of the pool. I don't recall the budgetary specifics in that. That's distinct kind of from the proposal request of what are the dollar amounts that are being sought, as opposed to information regarding how one views the benefit of the project. There's a distinction between, I see this as a good project, versus where's the money going to come from. But yes, Katie, that's a good suggestion, and we can make that inquiry. And I think it would be hopeful that we would get it back. Based on past years, and I think you've been participatory in the previous years, the town staff has been pretty good at coming back with us, whether it was Sean, Dave and Holly. They've been very cognizant of the process that we're going through. So timely, yes, absolutely. I think that was the essence of your question, and I tend to run on too much, so let me stop talking. Holly, I see your hand is raised.
Well, Jason, if you could let Jason.
Excuse me, my image is off.
It
Jason.
doesn't matter to me. If Holly, if what were you going to say was pertinent to the last question, then
Well, what I think I would be the most helpful to me is if somebody could just clarify to me exactly what we want, what I am requesting. So I'm requesting a prioritization of the town projects, which is the most,
and
also opportunities to reduce,
correct.
obviously. And same with the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust, opportunity to reduce what would they think would be a good number. But I'm a little bit unclear on the questions that I'm going to be requesting regarding the bathhouse. So I'm going to need someone to just help me clarify that, so I can try to get you answers as quickly as possible, because Katie is correct. I'd like to get them to folks in advance of the meeting, so we're not wasting time reading through answers. So just please clarify that so I can get it as quickly, as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, sorry to jump in here, Howard, but my intent with the bathhouse was 750 is a big number. In fact, it's the biggest number that we have here.
Yeah.
And I just need a greater surety that that's a correct number. If it's really 700, well, we've picked up 50. I don't want to go into our decisions with a guess that it's 750. I want to know whether it's 750. So that was my intent. That's for the bathhouse. All the others, as I said, if you take all the other projects and say we approve every other project except the Town of Amherst projects, that's 810,000 right there. The Town of Amherst projects are 1.3. We have to cut 400 and some thousand. So I would hate to say, well, okay, we'll not spend 150 for the trails because we think the signs are more appropriate or the golf cart access is more appropriate. Then the town says, wait a minute, we don't agree with that. We would rather have the golf cart. So that's what I meant in terms of priority. See, I don't know how you phrase that.
Right,
but
I
that's-
understand, I'm sorry,
Okay,
I understand the prioritization. The one in the bathhouse is just, there was also some questions about utilization and numbers and revenues. Are those
Oh.
questions that we want to have answered for the next meeting as well? Because those would need to be, somebody would need to guide me on those ones.
okay.
think
I
we-
would specifically like those questions answered. I asked for them when they gave the original presentation and they came back with like usage and revenue, but they did not come back with costs. And I'll just maybe clarify. My concern is, again, $750,000 being a big ask, 750 being given last year, knowing that there's an additional million out there if they get the full 1.5 million match. If the pool itself is losing $100,000 a year, to me that's a big problem to spend $4 million on a project, or let's just say this year to grant $750,000 to a project that where its main use as the bathhouse for the pool in 7 years is going to lose the amount of money they're asking for, right? That's my big concern, is that if it's losing so much money that within 10 years the money that has been granted to them is going to be lost, that to me is a problem. And I do want to stress, I understand, and I don't think that this necessarily needs to be a profit making thing, but there does have to be some serious conversation around loss and what it's worth. I would also specifically, aside from the bathhouse, I'd like to know from the town if they were to cut 20% from each one of their asks, would there still be a project? So with the bathhouse, if they cut 20% of the cost, are they still going to be able to get matching funds? And, with the signage and everything, like signage is great, but it's not, in my opinion, it's not, there's no time sensitivity to that. I think the trails have time sensitivity to them. The bathhouse may have time sensitivity to it. The benches and all the park equipment, I don't believe is time sensitive either. So if those could be piecemealed, if they could cut 20% off of each one of their asks, would there still be a project there?
Thank you, Jason. Holly, from what I gather from hearing the comments is that regarding the bathhouse, the question is their budget request the 750, their project application request still 750 or might it be lower? And distinct from that, I would say, what's the dollar amount, and I think it's 450, that would provide them the capacity to maximize or leverage their matching funds request. And I think she addressed it, but it wouldn't hurt to receive feedback. Jason, what I would say regarding your comment is, I hear you. Town staff has been pretty aware of the situation that committee members face. And if you see some of the prior meetings, you may see, if you go to the videos, you'll see some of the feedback that we received, which has been quite helpful. And there's different aspects of the financial questions. So I think we will be in a better situation as a committee if we get answers to the questions that we've asked, but more importantly, from Holly of the Pool, but more importantly regarding the prioritization of the town projects. And they do factor in, not necessarily 20% across the board, but we'll hear what they have to say. I agree with Tim that, it's hard for us to guess where their rankings are. I would make a separate comment, which is that the pool and other town services are not, I would use the term budgetary expenses as opposed to profit, because these are services for the greater community without the intent to be run for a profit business. These are services that town residents utilize, whether it be elders, whether it be accessibility, whether it be kids. So just from a phraseology standpoint, I've got the accounting business background. I'd call it service budgetary expense, but I understand what you're asking. But I do think, and I've been new in the committee many years ago, but other members here have been, and it has been very helpful to get the feedback from our questions, and that puts us in a good position as a committee to deliberate based on what we have before us. So thank you for raising your commentaries and regarding not just the pool, but others. Katie, you've had your hand up for quite a while. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, Bob's ahead of me.
Oh, Bob is ahead of you. I'm sorry, Bob.
I'm not sure I am, but thank you, Katie, because I've been cutting in and out for a number of reasons here. Sorry about that. I'm trying to make Holly's job easier only because translating this discussion to the powers that be might be challenging. It just seems to me that it's clear that, like happened last year, having Dave come and talk about the town's priorities directly is a very helpful process in terms of getting some of these numbers more refined. And as I recall last year, and maybe I'm misremembering this, he came with a reprioritization when it came to some of the housing dollars and some of the bigger dollars on the projects. And that really helped us kind of narrow down what we needed to give the town.
Thank you, Bob. And my remembering is the same as yours regarding the previous year. Katie, are you still looking to make comment, or have you removed your hand?
Well,
Or both?
yeah, no, I'm just conscious of time, but Jason, your question about, sort of revenue and losing money, I mean, it's an interesting question, and I just feel like that question could be asked about the trails. It could be asked about any number of things that even aren't charged, Groff Park, or, there's charged for, reserving space there. But I just think pretty much everything's a losing game, because there's sort of it's not a business model where there's a revenue to even come close to, except for tax revenue, to cover what we're doing. So my question is whether or not that's, how helpful that'll be to get that information if we don't get it for everything. And then I'm thinking then it doesn't make sense to do it on all things. And so maybe I'm just raising the question of whether or not, I don't think that's something we should ask Holly to do. That was my reaction to that, because I appreciate what Bob's saying is like, we have to be as clear as we can so it's easy for her to translate it backwards or up the chain.
Thank you, Katie. Yeah, that seems, Jason, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, so Katie, do you want my response? Is that just sort of a general open-ended question, or well, I'll just give him.
It was my opinion of that we
Okay.
shouldn't ask that question unless we're asking for all, but you certainly can respond. Absolutely.
Yeah, the reason that I would like to know that information about the pool, as opposed to something like Groff Park or the trails, is that there's continuous operating expenses for the pool, and I would like to know, like, is the revenue that comes in at the very least covering like lifeguards, or like is it just going to continuously be like this, where it's losing large, where the government services expenditure is larger each year than the revenues, which we know it is, but then is the ask going to be is there always going to be something wrong? The pool's going to leak one year, something's going to happen. There's always going to be something where that thing needs, in my opinion, it's just going to need large sums of money because it's old and it needs maintenance, and the bathhouse is older and it needs maintenance. And that's what I'm curious about, is that and the reason I'd like to know specific about the pool is because the operating expenses are continuous, but the pool itself is only open for 2 months out of the year. So if it's only open for 2 months out of the year, as opposed to Groff Park, the trails, all those things really are used year round by many people in the community. And again, I want to stress, I do not in any way believe that the pool needs to be a profit making venture. I agree, it doesn't need to make profit, but at a certain point, I think if it's a very large expenditure each year, that does need to be addressed. And I'm not even saying necessarily that this is the group to address it, but when we're being asked for a very large sum of money to look when there's a lot of other projects and we know we're going to be asked for more, it's something that I just want to raise as a concern. And you know, this is a place where I feel that I'm empowered to raise that concern.
Thank you, Jason. Matt, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, just echoing this discussion. Um, uh, I agree with Katie. It's like impossible to try and say, it's not losing money or making money. But another way to think about it is the amount of money we're spending per users. I mean, to Jason's point, if it's only open 2 months a year, how many people are really using it? So are we spending $100,000 for, 100 people to use it? Or are we spending $100,000 for 10,000 person days of use or something like that? It's a big difference. So I think from my understanding, a lot of the usage is actually not charged at the gate, whether it's through the camps or whether it's through coupons that are given to low-income families in town. But I think that the relevant metrics here is the operating expenses and the number of visits, people per day times the number of days.
I'd like to add to your comment, Matt, which is that the bathhouse, now this is if it comes to fruition, is slated to be aspects of it available to areas beyond the pool. It's central in the community area. There's the baseball fields. There's even the high school fields. So I think it's going to be a challenge to get those metrics. I agree with Katie's comments that all of the various public facilities and usages have all sorts of timeframes, and I don't think it makes sense for us to seek cost accounting, which is how I would describe it, for all the different avenues. I do think, though, Holly, in response to your question, asking the applicants regarding the pool, and Dave with the others, that if regarding the pool to come back with any adjustment to the ask from the applicant standpoint, and then with Dave's input, Dave and your input, specifically the dollar amount that would enable them to maximize the leverage potential of grants. And separately, if they have operating expenses that relate to just general budget as opposed to cost accounting that they could share, that would be fine. But I do worry about the committee getting too involved in the minutia of a cost accounting of a particular facility. But I do hear Jason's analytical mindset and approach to looking at it. But I'll just say that I think we will have a much better awareness of the situation and the gaps that we may face. And ultimately, it comes down to judgments of committee members when better situation when we get responses from a town prioritization. I do not want to run on too long here. And I don't think we really need to have a vote related to what we're seeking to request from the town.
No, not at all.
And I'd like to call on Holly and hopefully come to a point where we can
So I would just like to offer to Jason, if you would like to give me a call tomorrow or pop me an email tomorrow, and I can just make sure that I'm capturing the questions that you would like to see answered succinctly, or send me an email with the questions you would like to see answered succinctly. I want to be as efficient as I can, not get answers or not what you're looking for. I completely understand where you're coming from, but I just want to make sure that I forward those on to folks um, the correct way. So pop me an email, give me a call, and I will just kind of work with you to make sure that I'm getting the questions you are asking answered properly. The other questions I'm pretty clear on. Dave Z is pretty clear on where we would be going with that, but I just want to make sure that I'm capturing what you're looking to do, and I'd happy to work with you to get that
Yeah.
done.
Thank you, Holly. I don't need to know the operating expenses. If the rest of the group is fine with where we're at, I don't need to know that information.
That's completely, if that's what you'd like, we can do it.
We can leave it at that.
Thank you, Holly. Tim?
Yeah, it just occurred to me, sorry, because I know we want to adjourn, but I recall there was some discussion about town having two pools. And I don't know what the volume or the numbers that use the what is it, the Mill River pool versus the other one, or the War Memorial pool. And maybe it's an access question too. Maybe people who don't have cars and are more in town, it's fair for them to have pool access with the War Memorial, where they would have difficulties getting up to Mill River. But if the town's gonna put in, like, if I recall, the total project of that whole bathhouse pool was like 4 million, including the matching and the state funds and so forth. And that's a big number. And as the town, do we really want to do that? What with all the other needs are in town? So how do you fold that into discussion too? I don't know.
I would suggest that we can contemplate those questions that you're raising at our next meeting.
Okay, great.
We have the feedback, and I would also, my recollection is that we received from Amy via Ray Harp, I believe, usage numbers of summertime usage numbers regarding both pools. If I'm
Okay, great.
incorrect, we can reach out. I'll look at what I found and see if I can locate it and send it to you, Tim. In terms of the questions though, Holly, again, it's the summary from Dave regarding the town projects as well as the Affordable Trust in terms of flexibility and or prioritization where things might be reduced. And regarding the pool, is the 750 request still there, or might they lower it? Distinct from that, what would be the, for me, what would be the minimum, what they must have if they seek to maximize the leverage? It'd be a good data point from my perspective. And I guess that's it. So I realize we're running on a bit, although I've tried to be a little quicker than prior years, and actually we are. We're 15 minutes over instead of 45. So thanks to Holly for keeping things running smoothly in terms of the financial questions. And again, thank you to the committee members for the questions that have been asked and for trying to keep us on level. But again, we'll meet, the plan is to meet next Thursday. Hopefully we'll have as a committee additional information between now and then. Holly, if you can send us the spreadsheet with the project ratings and also confirm the current dollar gap, although I don't, we'll get feedback from Dave on that anyway. And we should plan between now and then to look over what we've talked about and be ready to hopefully wrap things up next week, although we're not going to rush it. We'll be deliberate. And so without that, unless someone has something else to say, I'm getting ready to adjourn the meeting. I'm looking to see if any members have their hands raised prior to that. I'd like to thank you all for your patience, and I think we've made great progress, and I look forward to next week's meeting where we can come to some clarity for our committee and for all the applicants as well. So thank you all very much. I will adjourn the meeting at 8:16 p.m. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank
Sam.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Sam.
Good night.
Good night.
If you need anything else from me, Holly, just let me know. So,
I'll probably just
yeah, I got
draft
it.
some questions and then get your opinion before. I'd just like to send them out as soon as possible so we can get them.
Sounds great. Thank you so much
Thanks.
for your assistance.